Iran today. The main thing we need to know that's happening in Iran is that no one knows what's happening in Iran. Our third story tonight, the pretense of democracy appears to be over there. No foreign journalists shot video of today's protest near Parliament. No foreign journalists were there. We have only second-hand accounts from witnesses after the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, announced that there would be no compromise, no revote, and no more protests. Protesters gathered near Parliament nonetheless, hundreds of them, met by riot police, thousands of them. No video of hundreds more police pouring out of surrounding mosques with tear gas and truncheons, firing over and reportedly into the crowd, by some accounts wielding axes against them, by some accounts throwing them off bridges. This one of at least 9 clashes today in Tehran. The former Prime Minister, Mir Hussein Mousavi, has not been seen in days. Conflicting reports have him under 24-hour guard, not permitted to speak to the media, or merely under close surveillance. The newspaper he owns has been raided by police, 25 journalists detained. His wife now calling for their release, calling the current status of Iran akin to martial law. Martial law that is even relative to what counts for normal in Iran. His former campaign rival, Mohsen Rezai, today withdrawing his claims of voter fraud, according to state-run TV, which is also reporting that President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad will be sworn in sometime between July 26th and August 19th. Official Iran media also blaming the death of 27-year-old Neda Soltan not on government forces but on protesters. One pro-government newspaper claiming a BBC correspondent paid a hitman to shoot her so he could make a documentary about it. After the video of her death spread online, galvanizing Iranian protesters and world sentiment, including that of President Obama, Britain's Guardian newspaper today reports her family is gone. Neighbors telling the Guardian that Iranian officials ordered them out of their home. Their whereabouts unknown. Time to turn again to Bobby Ghosh, senior editor of Time magazine, who oversees their terrorism and intelligence reporting. Thanks again for your time tonight, sir.
Anytime, Keith.
I said we don't know for sure what's happening today there. What do you think is happening there?
Well, it seems fairly clear now that that some of the momentum has run out for the protests and the demonstrators that we saw over the last few days. The government has come out in a very, very heavy-handed approach. As you pointed out, thousands of riot police against a few hundred protesters. So there is no subtlety left in any of this. The iron fist, as President Obama described it, is out in full force. What we need to find out is whether this momentum can be regained. We know that at nighttime, a lot of the protesters are continuing this unique nightly protest in which they go up to the roofs of their houses and shout out, "God is great." But during the day, it seems fairly clear that the government has been able to impose a certain amount of quiet onto the streets.
Does the fact that information has become sketchier and harder to find by itself tell us something, and if so, what?
Yes, it does. It tells us that the government is still fears a return of the protesters. The government still worries that the demonstrations we saw a few days ago might spurt up again, and which is why they're sort of, not only have they clamped down, they're sort of keeping this enormous military or security presence on the streets, which means they're still afraid, basically.
This question of momentum of the protests that you raised, have today's events narrowed the range of where developments might go? Have we seen that circumscribed one way or the other?
Yes, I think it's much more likely now that you'll see small protests. The opposition is still trying to organize a national strike. I think you'll see scattered protests across the country rather than these giant hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people coming out into the main squares of Tehran. I think you'll also see an uptick in the protests online. I think you'll see more videos, more postings on social networking sites. This is a new kind of protest we've already seen, and I think you'll see more innovations as we go along.
And using those innovations, supposedly Mousavi or whoever was speaking on his behalf was setting Thursday, which is obviously tomorrow, as the date for that last larger-scale protest, the idea of flooding the bazaars just to create not chaos in the streets, but traffic in the streets in a form of protest. Do we have any idea what became of that? Was that actually Mousavi suggesting it? Is it an impossibility for tomorrow? Is whether or not it happens perhaps the last gasp in terms of the prospect of this being sustainable?
I think after the fairly brutal tactics we saw today, I'd be very surprised if there was a very large outpouring of protesters into the markets tomorrow. Thursday is the beginning of the weekend in Iran, and so people tend to take things a little easier. But if the government continues to put thousands of people and is willing to sort of dish out very brutal punishment, then my suspicion is that people will stay indoors.
Lastly, Bobby, what role, if any, has President Obama or any American politician or, frankly, anybody outside Iran played in getting us where we are today?
So far, I think none at all. It's very clear that the regime is paying almost no attention, no heed to world opinion. The way that they're dishing out this sort of punishment on the protesters suggests that they don't care what the world thinks of them at the moment. I think some sort of a result from President Obama's speech will develop, or his statement yesterday will develop over several days. But at the moment, there's no indication that it's had any effect.
Bobby Ghosh, senior editor of Time magazine. The news is not good, but your analysis of it is greatly appreciated nonetheless. Thank you, sir.
Anytime, Keith.
It's time for Countdown's number 2 story. Tonight's worst persons in the world. The bronze to Congressman Randy Nagebauer, Republican extremist of Texas. He is signed on as one of the 5, count them 5, co-sponsors of Florida loon Bill Posey's bill that would require birth certificates from presidential candidates. After he insisted on radio yesterday that the bill wouldn't apply to the Obama election because it wouldn't be retroactive, Nagebauer was also asked, "So you believe the president the president is a U.S. citizen?" His answer, quote, "You know, I don't know. I've never seen him produce documents that would say one way or the other." Once again, WorldNet Daily, August 23rd, 2008, Drew Zahn, quote, "A separate WND investigation into Obama's birth certificate utilizing forgery experts also found the document to be authentic." Read it, Congressman, if you know how to read. Also, the people who elected you are obviously idiots. That does not mean everybody else is. The bill wouldn't apply to Obama. You do realize that he's likely to run again in 2012, right? The runners-up, Joyce E. Thoman, and she is the president of the Republican Women of Anne Arundel County in Maryland. This pretty much speaks for itself. Quote, "Obama and Hitler have a great deal in common in my view. Obama and Hitler used the blitzkrieg method to overwhelm their enemies. Fast carpet bombing, intent on destruction. Hitler's blitzkrieg bombing destroyed many European cities quickly and effectively. Obama is systematically destroying the American economy and with it, America." Seriously, isn't comparing Obama to Hitler a little much even for the Republican Party? Do you guys stand for anything? Why haven't you thrown this representative of your party out on her, Anne Arundel? But the winner, State Representative Cynthia Davis of Missouri, when she first won this award, hands down on Monday, we told you that Ms. Davis had attached a series of what she called commentaries to report on the state's meal program for underprivileged kids while school was out for the summer, insisting these meals should be curtailed. Among her original observations, anyone under 18 can be eligible. Can't they get a job during the summer by the time they're 16? Hunger can be a positive motivator. What is wrong with the idea of getting a job so you can get better meals? Tip, if you work for McDonald's, they will feed you for free during your break. Representative Davis has not apologized for, retracted, nor clarified her remarks. She has blamed an editorial that misrepresented my views, even though her views were in her editorials, which she wrote. She continues to believe that 1/5 of school-age children in Missouri who face hunger every day have somehow chosen to do that this is a family rights issue. Quote, "We all agree on the importance of feeding children, but we differ on who should do this. I believe this duty belongs to the parents. Instead of respecting this time-honored jurisdiction of the family, the summer feeding program treats families like they do not exist." You're wrong. It treats families like they don't have enough money to get meals for their kids and they need our help. When government takes over a family function like feeding children on a daily basis, we take a group of people who are capable and treat them like they are incapacitated. Look into your own heart and ask, what made a difference in my life as a child? Was it standing in a line for a cafeteria-style meal at school, or was it sitting around the kitchen table with others in your family? You're wrong. Gosh, Miss Davis, I think more than either of these things, what would have made a difference in my life as a child was if one day there was no breakfast and some idiot politician was trying to make sure I couldn't get one. And cafeteria-style meal at school? You're wrong. Missouri's summer meals are given out in churches, your own state, you don't even know the simple facts. My goal is not to replace parents, but to reinforce them. The solution is found in helping those near us, not in yet another gigantic federally funded mass market approach. Bigger government invites fraud and robs people of the dignity of personal human relationships. You're wrong. Your goal here is to try to take an efficient program providing needy kids millions of healthy meals at about $2.50 each and turn it into another wedge weapon of paranoia to use on the buffoons who would vote for a political hack like yourself. My weekly Capitol Report is a way for me to have two-way communications with my constituents and not a national manifesto for you to mock, distort, and to be quoted out of context. You're wrong. There was no distortion, no loss of context, and any mocking done here you have richly earned for today, for tomorrow, and for the rest of your tenure in public life, brief though the rest of us hope that might be. Yet to dare suggest there are alternatives for rational people to discuss and consequences of government taking over so much in people's lives is to be branded an inhuman monster. Hey, on this we agree. Well phrased. You're right. You're an inhuman monster. And you chair the state's permanent committee for children? You are a positive menace to the health and well-being of the children of Missouri. Resign. State Representative Cynthia Davis of Missouri, once again, today's worst person in the world, and not for the last time.